Hello and good evening. Well, it's evening in the UK. Hello, everybody. I'm back again. Stream number 3. Wow.
Hello and good
Didn't think
evening.
I'd ever get that far. And I've got the sound on the other screen. And there you go. Total noob, etc., etc. It always happens. Hopefully you're enjoying the graphics. Yeah, I know. It looks like the guy spent the day playing with Photoshop. Honestly, it was more than a day playing with Photoshop. But hey, I quite like it. I quite like the little card in the corner here. And I've stolen the reactor, jump jets, sensors and weapons online, and I nearly put all systems nominal down the bottom, but never got round to it. I've got a few other ideas, but this will do for the moment. So hopefully that's there, and you're appreciating that, and it looks quite good. If there's any feedback, let me know. Drop it in the chat. Send it anywhere as ever. Post it on Facebook. The usual reminder at the start for those of you that are new, if you hit the follow button here, then you'll get to find out when I stream. That, of course, might be very, very scary, and you think, I better not do that. I don't want this blithering English idiot on my case all the time. But, maybe you will. It helps me a little. I'm not here for the subscriptions, and I'm not here to make money out of this, but anyone that follows, it's greatly appreciated, I do try and keep all 3 of you, i.e. my viewers, happy as often as I can. The layout is fantastic. Thank you, Cos, Champion of Solaris. You never know, mate. I might even make a card just for you. Hopefully you can read the Silly Whiz card. It is a Silly Whiz card. Okay. So today we are intending on lifting the lid off the league. Well, that's what I've called today's episode. I intend to look at some of the cards that are available on the league this year, or the year between now and the end of the year, this fall, as you Americans call it, September to November. And there have been a few changes, few rule changes, and the introduction of a whole load of new cards, which I think is really going to shake things up. So before we start and look at all the juicy goodness that's there, let's just have a quick look or a quick reminder at where the world was Battletech card-wise before any of the league rules, before any of the changes, where the meta was when the game was left. And for those of you, if you're scribbling down with your little pencils and making notes, don't worry, all of this is available. There is a Nightbot, which is an automated routine on Twitch that I've got, and provided you guys type 2 lines of text in every now and again, this will pop up with the links to a Google Doc, which is all the notes, and it's set to do that every 15 minutes. So you just wait for it to pop up, hit the link, and you've got access to what you're seeing on the screen here, or all of my moitherings and rubbish and notes, which are there, so I remember to include all the things that I thought for. You might even think that some of this is pre-prepared and organised, which of course it isn't. So, anyway, layout's fantastic. Happy to assimilate it if I can figure out OBS. Yes, happy to give you a hand with that, mate. Not a problem. Alan Tiering is finishing Lightning's low-cost free deploy with AP. Yeah. Okay. We'll get there. Just chill. Let's look at where we are meta-wise. So, before the league, as the game was left, these, in my mind, were the decks that were played in a competitive format. So on the clan side, there are basically what I've described as Dasher-based decks. And the 2 prevalent ones are generally the Boom Wolf, full of your Dasher Primes and your Phantoms A's and B's, played by Peter Sundholm, once world champion, and been used by other people in that who have performed particularly well. And then there is a Ghost Bear elemental format with dashers and a number of the elemental points and dragonflies, which performs a similar sort of thing. Not quite as dash friendly, but I've kind of grouped them together. They're that hard hitting, fast unit type clan deck. And then the other clan deck that featured an awful lot was what's known as the Big Mech deck. The idea of building bucket loads of resources and exploiting cards like Merchant Cast to get lots of resources on the table and build your big honking stonking mech and send that across the table to cause absolute abject havoc on the other guy. And those were the two main decks or themes. If you go and look at all the tournament reports and the deck lists, you'll find those. And I doubt you'll find anything else from the clan side. When you look at the Inner Sphere, there's the good old traditional pilot decks exploiting Solaris contacts and the big pilots like Kai and Victor, and whether they were the Davian variety or the Star League TSL, varied, but they were definitely groupable. The difference being maybe a tweak of mechs for across the Star League and maybe one or two additional pilots from various other houses. The other next deck I would suggest is a Sandhurst Royal Military Academy SRMA deck. They tend to blur into the free deploy swarmy type thing, but for me, if it's Sandhurst with lots of free deploy and 6 Sandhurst, or if it's the Slowhurst variant where there's a lot more slower mechs and you run 1-2 Sandhursts as a boost to finish the game, they're a Sandhurst deck for me. Sandhurst in there, Sandhurst deck, again popular. Terry Borer and Yick, who came second in the second World Championship, use that kind of deck. Okay. Then there are the swarm decks for Inner Sphere, whether they are traditional mech-based, lots of cheap mechs that come across the table, the idea being to put 2 out a turn, or whether it's the type that exploits the 3 deploy mechanic to not put 2 down a turn, but put 3 or 4 down a turn. It's basically a swarm. They overwhelm you by numbers, and it's death by 1,000 bee stings kind of thing. What you didn't see so much at the end of the meta, but was around and arguably did well in 2000, the very kind of last formalized Worlds where Chad won. I know there was one in 2001, but there was a control deck, and I've called it control deck because it is a control deck, because the idea is that it will lock down the board, or potentially can lock down the board, versus any deck that doesn't play certain assets. Using the Task Force, the Star League, and exploiting Hasty Alliance and Task Force Serpent. If you've watched the Summer League final with Gustav and Michael, if you haven't watched it, go and watch it because it's a great watch. But you'll see that Gustav is actually using this particular type of deck, and Michael is playing something in between the free deploy swarm and the Slowhurst deck with a couple of Sandhursts in there to boost his damage output. Which, it's a good matchup. It's a good match, and it's poised at 1-1 at this point. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. And then finally, the other deck that you did see a little now and again was the Inner Sphere Big Mech deck, which basically exploited either Field Construction Site in double overtime or a couple of the Assault Mech building type cards to build either Cerberus doing 8 damage or the Thunderhawk, the 411 8 damage monster thing, which looks great, but deals a lot of damage. I think it's got long range 2 or something stupid on it. And again, the idea was to get that out really, really early and then just pummel the hell out of your opponent. So that's where the meta was. And up until the start of the league, I don't see any reason to suggest, or nothing's really come out to say that there's anything different to that. There might be a few odd ideas or whatever else, but because we haven't had much in the way of competitive tournaments and stuff, then there's nothing to disprove this or promote another deck type into this list. The thing to say is, though, the clan look pretty weak. They've only really got two archetypes. Please prove me wrong. Tell me if there's something I've missed. But they seem pretty weak. You play one of those two or you don't play much, at least competitively. And I'm talking competitively, not the fun element here and there. And where the Inner Sphere have quite a variety, quite a choice. So anyway, that's where we leave it. And now we're going to move on and look at the tournament rules for this particular league. and I've snipped these out of the official document, and they're highlighted here in red. Card limit for non-uniques and non-basic support is now 5. So in the previous league it was 4. Originally it's 6. Now we've gone to 5. Okay. I think if anything that weakens the clan decks. They have a dearth of mechs in that lower 1, 2 and 3 category. And the inner sphere have a lot of 2s, for example, and 3s. So when I was talking to Gus the other day and he said most of the decks I'd play were clan, I was quite surprised with a 4-card limit, because I'd have thought there had been a lot of inner sphere decks played because of the reliability of the draw. Okay, we'll see how that goes, and see what people bring along. 5 is an interesting number now, because with 6, if you're playing your 1-cost card, whichever unit it is, your deck is reliable. If you're playing a 2-cost card, your deck is probably reliable. If you said 6 Dasher Primes in a deck, you'd think, yeah, that's pretty reliable. I can deal with that. But at 5, is there enough? You're not drawing 1 in 10. You're now drawing 1 in 12. And I wonder whether 5 2-cost cards, 2-cost units, is enough to give you an early reliable game. Okay. I think you should throw in the Task Force Serpent Hasty Alliance deck as it appeared at the end of the official meta as a distinct type. That's kind of where the control element comes in, Michael. So, yeah, I could list it that way. The reason for the increase in limit, in my view, is to create more options for the combo decks. 4 was very restrictive. The focus was not on the units, but the cards like Suicide Troops. Yeah, I can see that. I just think that because clan struggles in 1, 2 and 3, there aren't many options that are viable or decent cards. Then it hurts clan more than it hurts Inner Sphere. Anyway, if we don't carry on, I'm going to be here all night. But okay, multiple copies of unique cards in play if they're controlled by different players. For those of you that weren't aware, if one side had got a unique on the table, let's just say it's Victor Steiner Davian, the other side couldn't have Victor Steiner Davian. If they killed the mech with Victor Steiner Davian on and he got scrapped, then they could put their own out. I'm not sure how much of a difference this is going to make. I think it might make some uniques feel slightly schizophrenic, but we'll see. Missile Y. So the missile option. Each point of a unit's missile option may be exchanged for attack on a 1-to-1 basis. I think that was in the previous league rules. You may choose not to roll any number of your missile dice and instead use them as a temporary +1 attack for the unit. Make the decision when assigning damage and using abilities during a mission. This is a 1-for-1 exchange, is temporary and lasts for the... Okay, so that's the same rule. And then underneath it says, missile and munitions, missile dice deal 3 damage and on a roll of 3, regardless of whether you have the munitions asset. Okay, so what does munitions do now? All right, let's find Lackey. Here we go. What does munitions do now? It's support, isn't it? Munitions. Okay, so... Oh, there's only 3 of them. They haven't done the CE ones. Oh, they've overtyped it. During your opponent's turn, you may pay 1 resource once to reload one of your depleted units. Okay, so that's 1 unit, not multiple units. Okay, that's interesting. I suppose with the amount of Alpha Strike units appearing, then that's a huge boost to Alpha. Okay, we'll come back round to that, and then Repair and Reload has moved. I have a comment about this, and I saw it in the Gustav game and Michael game, and on the second match, Gustav, and he freely admits this, slipped up, and it was the wording on Red Jack Ryan, and I think there is an issue here, which, let's put it like this: moving the repair and reload phase back to where it came from makes an awful lot of sense, because moving it broke an awful lot of cards. However, in Lackey, the order is still wrong and doesn't reflect this. So I think if the league is going to use this particular ruling, which I've got no problem with, I'm generally quite positive about this, I think you need to tweak the Lackey interface so everything is consistent. Everyone there knows exactly what they're getting, and there is no obvious answer because everything's in order. Okay. So just a few comments. One Kai to rule them all. Yes, okay. Some league also blocked all missiles from dealing long range, regardless of whether they were dice or points. The effect has been removed in the fall. Okay. So Red Jack will be completely useless for Unicorn resources with him after the deploy phase. Yes. Oh, a bug. I will fix it in my end BT Tactics plugin. It's not a bug, Michael. It's just that I think the Lackey interface, when we look down in the actual game, untap, draw, repair, reload, deploy. Okay, so that's now the right way. So maybe Gus was just reading it wrong, but that looks like that's the... Yes, that's correct now. I think he was just reading it wrong. But again, this if you're going to change it, be consistent. You've been consistent. Great. Not a problem. Hopefully I'm reading that right. So, okay. Yeah, you're happy with that. So that's good. May not play one or more copy. You may not play more than one copy of the same enhancement on the same card. Okay, I'm just trying to work out what that means. Is that meaning like you can't play 2 retrofitted missile systems on a mech if it's got 2 attack? Yeah, that sounds like it. Just seems a strange wording, strange rule. Don't think I've ever seen that happen, to be honest. I've never seen anyone play more than 1 or 2. Well, obviously they don't stack things, but they put things on mechs that have effects. But I've never seen people do more than 1 generally on a mech. So, okay, maybe someone else will bring some light on that. We'll find out. Okay, and yeah, right. I have got those are the changes. I thought I'd modified these. Special rules, summarized rules. Okay, sorry for all the flicking. I thought I'd split one of these out. Maybe it's the next one. Errata, munitions, that's put in there. So you now get to untap your depleted units. Dasher D Fire Moth has now gone to a 5 plus 2A plus 2T and is removed from the ban list. Okay, I think it's balanced at that. It doesn't tell me what the damage is on it. Let's have a look. What's the Dasher D? So it's overheat 1 plus 3, so you can get 6 out of it. Okay, still fragile as hell. Might see play. We'll see. Blitzkrieg to 2. I think that was the same in the last one. Solaris contracts. War funds. Scrapping war funds to search the stockpile for a resource card that provides an asset. I understand why this is the case, but when you look at Gustav's deck, because you can't scrap war funds to find Think Tank, then the lock it provides is even stronger. And I see that not only as a nerf, but a complete vulnerability to Gustav's deck. If Gustav puts that out, then forget it, game over. So I think that arguably needs looking at for me. Severed supply chains, double overtime as scrap when revealed, and then modified for function. Black Hawk D, buyout change to M. Add the text, when jumping, reduce any damage assigned by the first missile roll to 1. Okay, I have a comment on that. I'm going to deal with that when I deal with the Black Hawk D itself. I'm not going to deal with that here, otherwise I'm going to spend all my time going through the rules and we won't actually get to the juicy stuff. 5-card copy. Okay, so Sandhurst has been banned. Task Force Serpent has been banned and Disguise Coordinates been banned, although it doesn't include the CE version of Disguise Coordinates. And I asked about that, and Travis basically said if the two words start with a D and a C, it's banned. Although I think it was a very Americanized answer. Gus, have you gone and played Travis and smacked him with that Task Force deck or a Sandhurst deck or something or other like this? Because this seems to ban practically anything that somebody doesn't like by the looks of it. I appreciate that Sandhurst isn't everyone's cup of tea, and I've gone on record and I will freely admit it's not my favourite card, but it still has a place in the meta. So sorry, that's now out. Yeah. Right, forget Sandhurst. Not going to happen. And Task Force Serpent is out, so that one's going to go as well. Let's just change that, strike that through. So they've gone out of the meta. Cards with the DCI ban list that are errated. The errated version is unbanned, so Dasher D's playable. Elite Mech Warrior, Night Sky, and Effective Groundwork are still banned. Okay, fine, that makes sense. And then there's some other stuff down here about munitions, which we've already covered. This is the other half of the special rules. I just split it up to put it across two pages because it's a wall of text. Non-single elimination rounds are single games by default and can be adjusted to the best of 3 with the consensus of both players. So basically you're playing one-offs unless you want to play for 3. Sideboards used for elimination rounds. Sideboards used for these rounds if you go for 3. Okay. Sideboards consist of 8 cards. Sideboards, if you read the DCI rulings, it says sideboards either aren't or must be 8 cards. So you have none or 8. So maybe in the future we put a must in there, and then there's an errata which we've talked about. So those are the rules. They're going to have an effect on the meta, as are these cards. And one of the things I can see looking across all the cards is there's practically no buyouts on any of them. No A's, no M's, no T's. Well, there is an M somewhere. There was an L at one point. They're all gone, which kind of sticks 2 fingers up at assets in a way, because they're not really usable, but it does give a lot of flexibility. So we shall see what people run asset-wise with their particular units. There's only one clan unit. And at the start, I was saying that I felt that clan was weak. They only had 1 or 2 archetypes, and they're not boosted particularly well in that respect. They've only get 1 unit, whereas the Innisphere seems to get, well, a lot more than that. There seem to be a lot of swarmish, cheap type, high damage cards in there. There's some anti-dasher stuff in here, and then there are lots of units with lots of options. And this has, for me, a potential to remove dash decks from the meta and slap VTOL decks across the board. But we'll have a look. I'll just check for a few comments. Some people have complained after facing my deck. I'm not naming names. No, I understand that, Champion of Solaris. We know that deck is broken, really. We know that the Star League makes that work. If you take the Star League out of it, then it's weak. I just think it's a shame that instead of looking at getting or restricting the Star League, they've gone and restricted SRMA, which I think is a viable deck type, and that's not the path I would have taken. And there's a load of anti-VTOL stuff, although VTOLs aren't banned, that hit in here as well. The errated version of Sandhurst seems to be quite safe. Not a fan of banning it. Task Force Serpent is a different question. Yes, understood. I understand what both of you are saying. By the way, the Nightbot's kicked in, and the link is there for anyone wanting to click on it and go and get it. Can do. I still maintain that Task Force Serpent's deck is broken without the Star League. You can go Steiner. I think we have a difference of opinion on that, Michael, and without getting into a lot of conversation here, I think it makes it vulnerable to a lot more or a range of decks. I'm not saying it's not strong, because it is, but I think it makes it a lot more vulnerable, and I would go down the step-by-step approach and look at that and test it. But we're not here for that. We're here for this. So I've gone for ratings. I've said bad. It's still a bad card, or it's a bad card anyway, and won't get played. So if it's blue, it's passive and neutral. If it's green, okay, good. But there are better cards, and you'll always find that there are better cards for different factions as opposed to the generic ones, better choices, better strategies, etc., etc. Not all cards are great, and there are a whole variety of them in this game, from absolute amazing to totally unplayable and not usable. Strong means basically that it's playable and better than its alternatives. And overpowered means for me that it's probably meta breaking and needs changing. And by meta breaking, I mean breaking this meta, dealing with this meta, not any particular meta that anyone else might have dreamt up or see going in the future. Breaking of the current tournament meta. Okay, so and I didn't go for a middle ground. I honestly went for 4, because if I put 5 in there, it's too easy to choose the middle option, which is kind of average. So I kind of forced myself to be a bit more brutal. So the first card is, and I said there were 1 clan card. I lied slightly. There is 1 new clan card. This card, the Black Hawk D, has been modified. Honestly, I don't see the mod very well, and the red text is a bit dark. This needs to be, for me, a lot lighter and a lot brighter. Even this down the bottom isn't strong enough for me. This needs to be like bright blood red to see it. It kind of fades into the blackness. That's purely for support and help. That's no criticism of any of the artwork. When you go through this lot, then the pictures are absolutely top notch. You got to give A, the artists, and B, the designers credit for that. But I just think that could be a lot better. We have 3M added to this, and this mech now has Missile 2, Jump, +1 initiative. When jumping, reduce any damage assigned by the first missile roll to 1. And I actually think that's a bit unfair. Most people, when they're doing it on the table, they roll 2 dice together. Now they've got to roll 1 in order, which, okay, you do it on Lucky, it's 1 in order. But if the first missile misses, so you roll a 5 or a 6, for example, reducing the damage by 1 is the damage assigned, not the roll. It does nothing anyway, so I've reduced nothing by 1. So that actually isn't an effect for me. In fact, if I'm the defending player, I'm feeling aggrieved because I've had nothing reduced by 1, and then you roll the second one and you roll a 3, and away it goes, and it scores 3, and that doesn't quite seem balanced to me. Maybe if you're going to implement that rule, you should say the total is reduced by 1. That might be better. But I think this jump rule kind of flies in the face of every other jump rule that's around. And there's only 1 of them, and it's only standardized. And I don't see the reason for it. It just seems that this particular mech wants to see play, and I want 2 missiles on it regardless. I mean, my initial thought on this was, why not turn it into a 171 missile 1? Then at least you could jump for 1 and still have the missile, and you could retrofit a missile rack on it if you wanted, and turn it into a 3 missile mech or something like that. It just seems that this is kind of have your cake and eat it. You get the best part of 2 effects, and there doesn't seem to be a downside. So I'm not quite convinced that is particularly balanced. As I said, the jump effect breaks it. Using the jump when you roll is wrong, and I'm not sure this is going to see play. It's a missile mech. Maybe there's a call for it with Missile 3, but I'm sure there's plenty of cards out there that can hose it. I rated it as needs improvement because I don't think it's right. I think it could be, as I said, a 173 missile 1 jump. And you could use it like that. You've still got 1 guaranteed damage if it's not blocked. it makes it a medium speed Fenris C effectively, which isn't wolf aligned and has got a bit more structure. And I think that was probably fair. Okay, no comments on that one so far. So I'm going to jump across to the next one. And this is the other clan mech, and this is an absolute monster. Great picture. Timberwolf V. Is that a 5? I don't know. And I have a problem here, and I've mentioned this before, and it's a straight, honest problem. That's a Mad Cat. Okay? I'm a card player. I play the cards. This is a Mad Cat. 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 Okay? It may be that they're Mad Cat Timberwolves. Fine. I'm happy with Mad Cat Timberwolves. But when we look in Lackey and we look for them, they are there as a Mad Cat with Timberwolf in brackets. This one is now a Timberwolf. And of course, the problem I have is I can't put them next to each other. I can't see them. I've got to search for two different things. And what I think is an arbitrary decision, probably with the board game in mind. And I appreciate in the board game, that's a Timberwolf, and it's a Timberwolf all day long. Fine. No problem with that. But the card game is not the board game. They are two different entities. They are based in the same world. Okay, got that. But I wouldn't turn around to a board player or a tabletop player and say, I want you to do that. So I don't see why it goes the other way. I think my argument about usability is valid. You know, if I'm searching through Lackey and I want to find it, there are two places I've got to look, and that makes it a pain in the bum for me. So I disagree with that. I don't think it should be called a Timberwolf thing, and that's why I've called it Timberwolf thingy, because to me it's a Mad Cat. Okay, rant over. I shall stop ranting about names. All right. Maybe it should be both names, and Lackey will search on context as well, I think. So if you put Timber in, you might get both if it's done right. Okay, agreed. Consistency in naming conventions is essential. Yes. Okay, thank you. And that's from a guy I think has played a bit of board. So let's have a look at this beastie. It's a 2/9 in line with all the others, which are 2/9s. Great, got some good consistency there. It's Ghost Bear and Wolf. All right, so bit of crossover there. It features for both clans, whereas the original ones are all wolves. It has 5 damage, which is a bit lower than the other ones. And it has an overheat 4+4, which is quite a monster. Long range 2 and AP 2, so anti-personnel, so it does 2 additional damage to any target other than a unit. So that's your command posts or your scrap heap. Sorry, not your scrap heap, your stockpile. And it costs a straight 10. And for me, when you look at the other units, if we look at the Mad Cat B, which is a 9, 1A, 1M, it's a 2/7/9, no options. It does 7 damage to everything. This does 5 damage to mechs and then 7 damage to commands and stockpile. So they're close. The D has got a 4+4 on a 2/9/7 attack, and that basically adds 4 attack when you compare it to the Mad Cat B. So the difference in the +4+4 is basically 4 resources, and they've tweaked the A and M buyouts a bit. So that +4 is quite chunky. When you compare the 2/9/5, this one's got overheat 2+3 missile, 1 anti-missile, and it's 11. And the good old prime, I've left the A out, is quite expensive. But for me, when you look at these, this seems undercosted. I think this probably should be about a 12, give or take, and with a few, maybe a few buyouts. Although I would say it's nice to see a clan mech without any buyouts on it, but I certainly think it's undercosted. And I think because this is undercosted, I think you can get this on the table really, really early. And I think you can get this on the table turn 2. And that's quite scary. I'll show you how to do it. So if I go and load up my, where are we? Turn 2 timber thingy. I've just put a load of cards in here. so I can demonstrate it. So don't look at the deck. There's no point. And I'm literally going to draw all the cards I want to show you what's going on. So for this Timberwolf, what I'm going to do is I am going to start by deploying a strip mining operation for free, or deployed revealed, so I can make an additional deployment. And this is going second, by the way. I am going to drop a logistics and tap that to, tap that to put my strip mine out. And then I'm going to tap my strip mine to drop a, where are we? Merchant cast. And I can tap my merchant cast to put an improved construction facilities out. That's my that's turn one for me. I'm going second. I get 2 deployments. So that's the first half. And then on the next turn, I untap everything. I put my Timberwolf down and start to build it. I will tap logistics for 1 and put a construction counter on there. I will tap my strip. Oops. Shows how long since I've played. Tap my strip mine for another 1. And then I'm going to tap my good old improved construction facility. Oh, I'm really doing this badly. Let's do it this way. Highlight the card. And where we go. Come on, Mark. What are we doing? Construction +1 gets to 5. And then I drop another double overtime. And then this is ready, and it comes out on turn 2. And I've tapped that, and I've still got a tap left on my merchant cast to put another something out if I really want to. So this Mad Cat can come out on turn 2, and yeah, 5, 7. So that can kill a resource on turn 2, and or if you go for the stockpile, it can do 11 straight off. 5 AP2 overheat 4. It can do 11 on turn 3 to the stockpile, and that's 11 out of arguably your 40 cards. That's 25% of the way to a win. So that's pretty powerful. Well, it's well priced. Most of the Mad Cats in the original game are poorly overpriced. I think the only one is B's good on a non-curve. Yeah, probably. CD and primes are overplayable and overpriced. Yes. You can double click a card in Lackey to tap it. Yeah, it's just me just spam clicking all over the place. So this is arguably a boost to the Clan Mech big deck if there is something. Okay, fine. Will people play it? Don't know. I think if you're going to play Clan this league in competitive, then you're all in. This is probably where you're going. Let me just reset that because I'm going to need it in a minute, and we're going to come back to something else. So I think this is pretty strong on turn 2, whether it's overpowered or not. I'm kind of putting it in that bit in the middle. I think if you can get it on the table turn 2 and then start doing things with it, then it could well make the game very, very short. And there's more than one way to do it. You can use field construction site as well and double overtime. The only problem with that is you've got to scrap field construction site, and it puts you on the down curve for the subsequent turns. So the more reliable version is to use your merchant cast. I know these are possibly overcosted. This one is maybe playable. I still think that this, for what it does, is a bit cheap. Maybe a resource or 2, or at least a resource and some asset buyouts or what have you. So the timber thingy, potentially quite dangerous. The next one is the Warhammer, and this little thing I think is quite reasonable. It's a 2/6/3, overheat 3+2, AP1. It's got AP because of the machine guns. When you compare it to some of the others, the 2 mechs that stand out in the class are actually the Zeus and the Victor, although they are 10 tons more. They are 2/7/3s with either an overheat or an alpha and a jump option. So this kind of looks about right. I think the worry for me here is the AP. It gives you another little point on your damage versus the stockpile, and the overheat gets that up to 6. That's just that little bit better than these two. You either alpha this for 5 or overheat this for 5. So I think when you look at these, they've got a 3A buyout. I think this probably deserves a buyout in that kind of region. Whether it's assembly or something else, then fine. I think as a straight 4, it's a bit generous. Okay, the overheat is a little worse, but the AP is a lot better. I just think it needs a buyout, and I think off that it'll be a decent unit. As it stands, you would probably pick it over these two. Definitely the Zeus if you're going with an overheat deck, because the AP adds another damage. So if this has got a red line on it, you'll get 8 out of it instead of the 7, and that would be why I would make sure that there is a buyout on there, if not 2, just to balance it. So Gustav, kill reverse on turn 3. Yeah, that will be the Madcap play. Or 11 on the stock. Yeah, 19 cost with 9 base attack is 14 cost with 9 base attack is playable. Yeah, Madcap C. You mean the A, which I think is A is the 299, but with no asset buyout. And yes, I think that is playable because of the no asset buyout. Warhammer is about half a resource too cheap. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think for balance and comparison to the others, you might put an A in there, you might put an M in there, you might even put an A and an M or a T or something or other like that in the buyouts on that. So I think at the moment, if you've got a deck where you've got a Zeus in it or a Victor, particularly the Zeus because they're both overheats and you're theming on that, then you drop the Warhammer in because it's better as it is. So I think that's pretty strong, and it's better with its peers. I don't think it's going to break the meta, but I think it's going to replace the cards like the Zeus. Okay, it's slow. It's about half a resource too expensive. You think it's fine? Okay, that's a fair opinion. As I said, when you look at the others, it's trade-offs. Okay, okay. Catapult Revised is the next mech on the list, and much as I like the art on the left, and this is going to sound controversial, I still think I prefer the one on the right. I think it's got a bit more colour to it. I think the one on the left is, much as it's a great picture, I think it's a bit grey. He says wearing a greyish t-shirt. Yeah, I know. It's revised, okay, and the only thing that's been revised is the fact that instead of having overheat 1+1, it's now got overheat 2+2. And I'm just thinking, really? Did it need it? I don't think it's going to be played, and I don't think if you give it +2 attack, it's going to be played. Maybe with the missile, but I'm not a great fan of missile decks. 2+2 on that makes 3. Missile 2 makes 5. I suppose you could redline it. But I just think, would you rather have a 2/6/1 2+2 missile 2, or would you rather have a 2/6/3 AP overheat 3+2? And I think I'd probably pick the Warhammer most of the times. So I don't really see the point in changing this. I still like the picture on the first one. I prefer it, as I said, because I think it's a bit dark, and it's just a tweak on the overheat. Is it going to make much difference? I'm not sure. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that change. I don't think that's a valid use of time, and I don't think it has a great effect. I don't think it makes it any more playable. The K2 variant, I think, is interesting. It has an extra point of armor, and as I understand it, and I'm not a great, well, I haven't played much board game, but I have played some of the Mech Warrior and the strategy version, that this actually has the potential, or probably does pack more armor. So I'm willing to not even comment on that at that point, because I can't honestly say. when you look at it, it overheats for 1+1. You're going to get 4 out of it. It's the same kind of damage as this. 4 attack, about the same. It's got AP because of the machine guns again, and you know that gets it up to 5. Again, with a red line, you can get it to 7. Is it better? Is your Warhammer better with the extra damage at 3-2 on that? Probably. I think you would pick the Warhammer over this most of the time. And I said this, and you know, people have said, oh, it shouldn't, but I just think this is designed because of the 2 PPCs as a long range damage mech, and I know the PPCs don't count, but I think for a bit of flavour, I'd like to just see this have long range 1. That's just an opinion, you know. There's nothing to substantiate that really. You know, the PPCs, okay, fine, they're not ER PPCs, they're PPCs, but I just think it would give it something a bit different, and it might make it a little more enticing, because at the moment, your other options, you know, this is Kurita and Rasselhag only, and your Warhammer is generic Innisphere. You could play that every time on top of it. I don't see that there's any reason to play it over the Warhammer, for example. So I just, you know, that's just me. That's just me. You know, how you like to play and whatever else. I'd rate that as needs a bit of an improvement. Okay. So, Catapult, well priced, on curve. Yeah, I think it's a fair cost and price for it. You know, I've got no problem with that. Okay, the Nightbot's kicking in, so I'm doing all the adverts, so hopefully guys can appreciate that. There's links to the Facebook group and the YouTube channel where this will get stored, and the Nightbot itself is linking you to the presentation that I'm using or the notes I've got here, so feel free to link them and tweet them. So, next, and Quasimodo would probably be turning in his grave on this, although without being too rude, I suspect the hump might stop him doing that. But this is an absolute beast, and what I don't understand is this was revised, and now it's been revised again. Oh, actually, that's not true. The 5M was revised. The 4G wasn't. So my theory here is we'll look at the same. It's a 1-7. It's a 1-7. They're all 1-7s. The Hunchbacks, that makes sense. It's consistent. 2 damage, probably 2 medium lasers, fine. And then it's got this huge Alpha 3. And this, along with the munitions tap munitions to untap this is just gross. You put a sharpshooter on that, it's doing 7, and it costs 2, and that is pretty crazy. By comparison, let's look at our 2-cost Enforcer, which is also slow. It's 1 less on the structure. It's a 162 jump Alpha 1, and that costs 2 with an assembly. This is a straight 2, so it costs less. It's got 1 more structure. It's got 2 more Alpha strike, and it doesn't have jump. And again, it doesn't feel costed right. The problem with this is that if you go first, you can go logistics, whatever you want. Who cares? As long as there's a tactics in there, you can go resource, put a counter on this, or you go first, you go resource. Then you go on turn 2, you go resource this, and then the next turn you go sharpshooter and you attack for 7 and kill a resource. So there's a lot of early game potential here to wreak an awful lot of havoc. You could even play a mission with it if you wanted, and alpha it if you play munitions in there and untap it next turn, and it's free and out again. And I worry about the Alpha 3. I look at the Hunchback and see how big the Alpha strike is on that, and the fact that this is costing a whole 6. Then this feels undercosted for me and very, very league abusable. It wouldn't surprise me if this made an awful lot of appearances in an awful lot of decks because of that. And I can see people comboing it with a number of the other alpha striking options. If you look at the deck I played or used or put out for Ian Winters last week, then we put this in and we had front-loaded supply lines and sharpshooters and access to our extra munitions, and it wreaks an awful lot of havoc very, very quickly. So if you're playing the league, use and abuse this. And if you're not playing in the league or you're not using this, expect it would be my advice. I'm guessing it's using the Clan LBX AC-20s because it's doing half the damage of the Hunchback. Don't know. Possibly, yeah. I just think from a balance point of view, yes, the Hunchback, the Clan version, kicks out an awful lot of damage. But what I think my point is that's costed. It costs 6 for this, and this for 2 when you compare it to the other ones. I mean, okay, let's compare it to the original. It's a 172 Alpha 2. This has got Alpha 3, and it costs the same amount without any buyouts. So it seems quite cheap. The revised version of the other one is 173 with an Alpha 1, so you get 4 out of it, like this one, and it's got an L and an M buyout instead of an A and an M buyout. So they seem consistent. This seems undercosted or doesn't have any buyouts on it. So yeah, as I said, if you're playing the league, you're either using this, or if you're not using it because you've gone another route, expect to see it, because I think a lot of people will be using and abusing this. Okay. Yeah. That's all the stuff I've talked about. So the next one is this flea. And there are 2 versions of this, because there is an original version that was put out, and people said it was overpowered, and it is incredibly overpowered. It's probably the most overpowered card in this format. I know it's changed when compared to the other ones. If we look at the original 17 flea, not the 15, it's a 1-2. It looks like they've got the same amount of stuff. It's only a 20-ton chassis, 2 medium lasers, 2 small, 2 mediums, 2 small, a machine gun and a flamer. Okay, so the damage is different. Is the armor that different? Is there enough to turn it into a 0-3? I don't know. I think when you compare it to its Nexus, which is 1A, it's a 0-2-2 with a similar armament. It's got 3 medium lasers. That's probably about the same there. And it only comes to 2 damage. So cost-wise, 1-1L. Oh, compare it to Dasher. Compare it to a Dasher. Dasher is 0-2-3, okay? Or actually, compare it to Koshi. Koshi Prime, 0-2-3, same stats. Okay, Koshi's got jump, different armament, but this is crazy, and it's a free deploy. And this version, the original version, has got AP2. And I'm going to show you now why that is incredibly meta breaking. And if I pull up my Lackey again, I will go and get my Very Broken, I've called it. Here it is. Here are the cards I'm playing with, and then I'm just going to load them in. And for sake of argument, I've got a very mixed deck here, because I'm going to show you what happens when you play a Dasher deck. So there are 2 options. First, you play first as the Inner Sphere player, or you play second. So I'm going to go for the 2 permutations first of you playing first. So you deploy the flea revealed, and then you deploy your logistics, you tap your logistics, and your flea comes out. Okay. For reference, for those people, see this little plus here in Lackey in the top left-hand corner? It gives you an opportunity to scale and zoom in to your board. And from that point of view, I picked the wrong one. Yeah. And you can pan around and you can zoom. So I've zoomed in a bit so that you guys can, where are we? Zoom that one, sorry. So you guys can see what's going on. So there we go. Let's close that off now. So that comes out on turn 1. Now, if you're the clan player, you play, let's just say normally you would play your assembly. Now, this thing has got AP 2 on the original version. This is bad because it's got AP 1. And because it's a free deploy, effectively it doesn't cost you anything. Or, because you're going to tap the resource, it costs you nothing. Or on the first turn, you don't waste this resource. And that comes out. Normally on turn 1, you play a resource and you don't tap it unless you've got a free deploy unit. So free deploy unit is effectively 1 cost cheaper. Because, you know, I'm paying this for free, or putting this down for free, and I can put a resource which pays for it. So it's effectively, in this case, a 0 cost 132. So in this case, if I'm the clan player, this thing does 3 damage. So I can't put an assembly down, put my dasher down, tap it and put a construction on it, because the first thing that's going to happen is this flea is just going to come across here and kill this card under construction. So I can't do that. It's already there. I know it's going to happen. So that play is out. So if I just turn the dasher over and stick it over here for a moment and untap that. So what am I forced to do if I've got them is I'm forced to play a second resource, because I know if I play a unit, it's going to die. Not just the dasher, any unit will die. And that is a problem. So in a sphere player next, we'll untap that. Let's put a tactics down. And if we tap both of these, the next card that comes out is the Lightning, the little dashing hovercraft. 2 cost L&T, 0-3-3. It dashes. Now, the flea with 4 damage, 2 damage, AP2, and that lightning are a magic 7. So they'll kill that resource, whichever one you want. You pick, do I want to kill assembly? Do I want to kill tactics? And at that point, I am so far ahead on curve, because if you kill the tactics, let's just put that in the scrap heap, what's he going to do next turn? He needs another resource to get his dasher out. So at that point, the game potentially could be over. Or if I haven't got my lightning, if I play 5 lightning and 3 or 4 superior navs, I've got a resource kill chance that's just like a dasher. So this is effectively dash for Inner Sphere and not clan. And it's worse with the AP2 version because you get more damage out of it. So this unit on its own, whichever version is out there, and this one hasn't got the L buyout on it, this version on its own is a lot of problems. So if I just go for a new game and pull everything in again, oops, okay, and draw all these cards, let's look what happens when the Dasher guy goes first. So Dasher guy goes first and plays an assembly. I play my flea for free. I play logistics on 1 and I play tactics on 2. I will tap 1 and my flea comes out. My clan player puts down a tactics and taps both, and out comes my dasher. So effectively we have a stalemate here. Even though the flea is medium, there is a stalemate, because does the dasher guy go for the resource? If he goes for the resource, the flea could just respond. So if you're both packing superior navs, dasher could go for tactics, say. It's probably the better play, because if you kill the tactics, then the flea, the Inner Sphere player, can't play the mission. But do you, don't you? Do you go for the stockpile? If I go for the stockpile for 3, he's going to hit me back for 3. I'm trading. I'm not ahead. You know, the dash players are normally get that out there, stick you for 3 before you start resource hunting. That's how the deck plays. That's the strategy. That's one of the viable clan strategies. Do you trade with it? Do you pick it off? You know that you can kill each other. And if you kill each other, then the next thing that's going to happen is these 2 are going to get tapped and our friendly lightning's going to come out, and you're going to get stuck for 3, or he's going to resource hunt you. And that's the best scenario for the clan player. The best scenario for the clan player is, at this point, having a superior nav in hand and trying to kill the tactics, because you know he can't resource hunt you unless he's got another tactics and plays the lightning, which he could. That's realistic. So this is really on the back foot for the clans. That dash deck has just been hit on the chin, and it's staggering, because normally it's used to having that dasher out and picking a few off here and there, or going for the card under construction and putting pressure on, and it's not happening. It's not happening. And for me, I don't know why I'd play a clan deck. I honestly don't know. With that flea on the table, regardless of whether it's the medium version or the fast version, I don't know. Sorry, just playing with the camera a bit. I don't know why I would play clan. There's too many issues, and we'll see that a little more when we carry on going through here. So that's the flea. Again, I think this is meta breaking. I really, really do. I think that the problems that causes, any dash player, for me, does that. It takes it out of the meta effectively. Just one little fly swatted away, bang bang bang. Yeah. Okay, I better catch up on some of the text going in. Koshi's fast, fleas medium. Yeah, okay, that's a fair comment. Doesn't the Wolf's Dragoon tag also let you put it in any deck, or play the deck of any Inner Sphere faction? Yeah, problem. Depends if you set the rules so that Wolf's Dragoon is a specific faction or not. Okay, in the last set of rules, tournament-wise, Wolf's Dragoons weren't. So, yeah. I'd ask Travis, I think the Marek tag would only limit it to the Marek faction only. Yeah, okay, I'll drop him a line. Okay, I'll go after the resource if you're a dasher. Yeah, fair comment. And again, this is the revised version where the AP has gone to 1 and the L has disappeared to compensate. So yes, it's medium. It trades with the Koshi. The Koshi's fast. It's got jump. Is it costly? I don't know. But I think as it stands, with all of those options, it's bad. I know where they're going with the M machine guns, and I know why the Flamer made it AP2. I have an idea about Flamers. I don't think Flamers should constitute straightforward AP damage. I don't think that's good. I think it turns a lot of these mechs into resource killers, and you are adding 1s and 2s here and there to stockpile damage, and I think that's going to bleed the game. You're going to plink them to death. My personal thought with Flamers is to do something, and this is only just me thinking of a bright idea or an idea over a cup of coffee. It's not tested, it's not tried and true or whatever else. But when I've played the RP, not the RPGs, the board game simulator type thing, the BattleTech stuff, the little fire starter would run up to my mechs and it would just flame the crap out of it so it overheated. So I was wondering whether a flamer was actually an ability that you declared at the start of battle, and the mech that you declared it against had -1 attack, but gained overheat 1+1. So you could overheat and still do the same amount of damage, but you were kind of impaired by the flamer idea. And it was just something I was thinking with. Maybe it's worth looking at. I don't know. I haven't taken it any further. It's as simple as that. But this little flea, as it is pretty scary. And yeah, okay, it's medium. But if your guy hasn't got a blocker on the board, or he's asset screwed, and this hits the table, then you're taking 3s and 4s all over the place. So even the revised one, I worry with. The locusts, again, are another concern from this point of view. And okay, fine, you've got a 0-3-1 and a 0-3-2. They're a different variant, 1V versus 3V. This one has AP1, so it's doing 3 damage against command cards and stockpile. This one has AP1 as well, so that goes up to 2. This one is a free deploy. But they cost the same. And they're fast. If you're playing free deploy, probably take the 1V, maybe. If you're playing a normal deck, then you take the 3V. It's generic Inner Sphere. It deals with the Dasher and trades with it all day long. And it's got AP. So when you're going forward, it does 3. So you can try and outdash the clans. You can stick this on the table. If you've got superior nav, you can resource hunt with this in the same way you can with the clan or with the Dasher Prime. And I think that's really strong. Again, I'm not sure this is costed right. Straight 1s across the board seems quite powerful. And again, when you think about clan, I can't get my Dasher out before this is on the table. You know, I go first and go A, he goes 1 and Locust. I'm left with another resource and a Dasher, and it's stalemate again. You know, you could even force the issue. If you go first as the Locust player, you go 1 Locust, 1, he goes A, counter on Dasher, you go tap Locust, put another resource down, put a counter on something. Or actually you don't because it's 2. You've got a defender out before the Dasher hits the table, so you're not even going to take the dash damage. So the Dasher player's not even going to get his cheap shot in first. And the other thing to say here is that there's a 5-card limit. So you've only got 5 Dashers. So that for me, I'm into unreliable Dasher territory where I may or may not pull one because there's only 5 in my deck. And the other guy's playing 5 Locust, 5 Flea, and all of a sudden, or 5 Lightning, or whatever else it is, all of a sudden, I'm on the back foot again. And again, yeah, they need something. They don't quite seem right, for want of a better phrase. No reason to play the 1 over the V unless you're playing free deploy. Yes. It's a Dasher, and this is why I say potentially you're killing lots. 2 of these on the table, or 2 or 3 of these on the table, and you go resource hunting. That's my flamer idea, which actually I'm just going to move in the presentation so it goes after the Flea. I just put that in there. So our next friend, our next buddy for this expansion is the Crusader. Oops, I better check on chat. Yes, it's DCI rules. I think you're thinking about the mercenary keyword, I think. A mercenary is anyone, but Wolf's Dragoon is a faction. Yeah, keep in mind the next time I bang my head against the table, make a desert. Okay, yes. Not under DCI deck rules, the C faction set Wolf's Dragoon units can be included in any IS house build. Yes, that was the change that happened with Commander's Edition. Comstar got promoted to a house. Wolf's Dragoons got relegated. They still have the keywords on the cards, but basically they're like Periphery and Red Jack. You can stick them in any Inner Sphere deck at that point. Okay. Problem with the freeze is also Marek, and thus I think only limited to Marek does under CE faction deck building rules. Yes, but let's face it. All right, you want to talk Marek? What's the best Marek card you can think of, Gustav? Come on, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. Do I hear a Blitzkrieg? Okay, fine. And what's the next thing that's still viable? The Star League. So Blitzkrieg, let's just have a quick check on what Blitzkrieg does, just so you guys can get happy with Lackey. Blitzkrieg says, play when attacking, untap each blocking mech that's not guarding. So basically, unless it's guarding, it doesn't block. All right, so let's play the Star League, and let's add the manipulation of Romano into the deck. So for 3 and 6p, I can pay the buyout on that because all of my fleas and whatever else are 0 cost. Sorry, 1 cost, but they have no buyout, so I can play tactics easily. Manipulation of Romano says tap all guarding mechs. So I can tap all the guarding mechs, and then I can blitzkrieg anything that's going to block me. And basically, I've got an inside job for my entire group. And then if you want to do something like put on a fanatical fruit bat, fanatical leader. We always call them fanatical fruit bat, or I do anyway. and every unit in the group gets +1 for each other unit, then all of a sudden, there's a big hit coming your way and you can do nothing about it because you can't block and all your guards are tapped. So, yeah, Wraith's your favourite fast mech. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, Blitzkrieg. So, from that point of view, I could see a potential little Marik swarm that runs Blitzkrieg and manipulation of an inner sphere swarm that runs the Blitzkrieg and manipulation in order to get a free hit on the pile to finish, and boosts it with things like the Fruit Bat. I think that could be a deck that could well be played, and a lot of the cards are fast, so you can pick and choose whether you or how you deal with them. Okay. The next card I found actually quite interesting, which is the Crusader. It's a straight 5. It's a 2/8/0, missile 2, overheat 3+4, AP 1. Okay, fine. And actually, I used this to look at like-sized mechs, and the one I picked out was actually the Bombardier, and I think the Bombardier that they made a bit of a boo-boo on, to be honest. So I would see this as potentially a way to maybe look at justifying a buff. When I look at the Crusader, 30 LRMs, it's got missile 2. If I look at the Puma C, it's got 30 LRMs, it's got missile 2. And when I look at the Puma A, it's got 40 LRMs and it's got missile 3. Our good old Bombardier has 40 LRMs and it only gets missile 2. So I think this is arguably room for me to give the Bombardier a bit of a buff. Which, hell, why not? Nobody plays it. Give it missile 3. Maybe a revised Bombardier or upgraded Bombardier or whatever you want to call it might be an idea. But I think a missile 3 on there would potentially be something worth looking at. I'm very mixed about this. It's 5 cost, so it's not going to go in every deck, although it's generic with no buyouts. And you've got missile 2, which again you can convert into damage. What worries me a little is the overheat 4 and AP 1, because all of a sudden this is not just a 2/8/0, this is a 2/8/5 with missile 2, and by league rules you could convert missile into 2 damage, so this could be a Magic 7 number giver straight off, and that's before you do something crazy like put a Redline pilot on it. So I'm very mixed about this. I think in the right situation it could be quite strong. I think in the other situations it's nowhere near as that. And I think 5 cost is potentially a little on the heavy side to put into most decks, although you could probably get 2 or 3 in there. So I'm not sure whether it's going to see play. We'll have to see. I am undecided. I am sat on the fence with splinters in my backside on this one. I'm not sure if it's costed right, but hey, as I said, I'm not sure if it'll see play. Moving on, the Marauder, and my opinion here is somewhat similar to, and I should take the guillotine out really and go and look at the Victor. But with this, it's a 273. When I look at the Zeus, it's a 273. 75 tons versus 80 tons, so there's a bit in it. Yes, it's packing lots of firepower with 2 PPCs and medium lasers and stuff. It's the same effectively as the Zeus. The overheat 3 versus 2. Okay, it takes 1 damage. Maybe it should have a buyout in there. If it had a buyout of 1 or 2A, I wouldn't bat an eyelid. I think it's in line with the Zeus. As it hasn't got them, I kind of got a question. I think it's pretty decent for what it is. I think it's pretty fairly costed. As I said, if there was an A buyout in there, 1 or 2A, or even something like a 1 or 2T or something, or whatever it was, I wouldn't be surprised. maybe it needs that when you compare it to something like the Zeus or the Victor that we looked at earlier. So yeah, I think it's pretty decent. Likely to replace the Peer units, yeah, because if you're not looking at a Davian Steiner deck, this is generic Inner Sphere. You can put it in where you want. It's a reasonably good substitution across the board. What have we got here? Marauder with red line, Crusader with Ronda. Okay, love it with a red line. Throw in the Rifleman. Yeah, we'll come to the Rifleman in a minute. Marauder is on curve for cost also. Yeah, okay, fair enough. All the cards in the league are or overcost, either rounded up if I recall correctly. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense with the roundup. So our next one is arguably a white mech in a snowstorm. It is a Rifleman without any picture. Hopefully we'll get a nice picture in there to match the other great art that's along here. I find this one quite scary. It's got an awful lot of options. When I look at it and compare it to the Night Sky, okay, Night Sky is medium, Rifleman's slow. It's a 171. Night Sky was a 172. Night Sky overheated for 3+1 and had jump and an axe. This overheats for 3+3, has alpha and this anti-aircraft facility. And we know what happened to the Night Sky. It got banned because they did the numbers wrong. And it got revised into a 173 jump hand-to-hand, but 4 cost. And this Rifleman, it doesn't look like it's undercosted at 171. But with the alpha rule, and then you've got an overheat. And this overheat means this does 4. So if you compare that with a 3 attack unit, you've got a resource killer straight off. So I think the overheat is very powerful and arguably should potentially bump this cost up somewhere. Whether it goes to a 3, might be worth a 3. Or there's a couple of asset buyouts in there, I don't know. Anti-aircraft, I've looked at this and it can block VTOL units, and okay, for the league, I'm thinking everyone's going to try this. I really wouldn't play a VTOL deck at all, because I think there'll be a few of these kicking around, and I'm not so sure that that's as balanced as it could be. I think if it was a tap Rifleman deal 1 damage to an attacking VTOL unit, a bit like the Naga style thing, where they're tapped to deal damage to things. I appreciate that it's an anti-aircraft mech, but I'm not so sure that blocking VTOLs is good for entire game balance or meta. So I would be a little concerned about that. And I think the overheat is crazy on this. This is an asset killer along with another 2-cost mech, which is going to fuel my predictions on that. So I think that potentially is undercosted and potentially overpowered. The next one on the list is the Jaeger mech, a revised Jaeger mech. I don't know if it needed it. I think this Jaeger mech. And again, I'm going to draw a little on my limited knowledge of playing the strategy game. This particular Jaeger mech has got a lot of tonnage allowance that isn't used for armour, or it's under armoured. I seem to recall it got very, very weak kind of shoulders. What's the word? It's not torso, it's not arms, it's the bit in between. Yeah, or you could shoot the arms off it because it was weak in the arms and stuff, which is where they put the AC5s in that. So I don't know whether this needs a revised version. I think 1.6 is strong when you look at the others. You know, this DD is a 1.53. This is a 1.4. Okay, yeah, we know it didn't have as much armor. I'm not sure if 1.6 is as good as that. And if it is a 1.63 and it's a 2-cost, then compare it to the Blackjacks or anything else like that. And 1.63 for 2 is paying 2 for 3 damage is pretty good buyout. I mean, it's like normally damage is at least 1 for 1. And when you look at mechs, light mechs are normally 0 and 2 or 3. Mediums are normally 1 and 5 or 6. And up the scale. So 3 damage on that seems quite powerful. And if you put this 3 damage, I've gone with our overheating rifleman, I've now got a 4-cost resource killer. So all of a sudden, the inner sphere seems to have lots and lots of swarm options. Okay, this is Davian Liao, this is generic inner sphere. You could easily pick between Davian and Liao and build a swarm deck across the board with this and some of the other mech choices kicking around. And again, it's got that anti-aircraft, and my opinion is maybe that should be tap and deal 1 damage to an attacking VTOL. At least then you make the die roll, as opposed to this blocks a VTOL, it's going to slaughter it. I know there are people that, and I'm an advocate of this, that say the card game is a representation. It's not true board game tactics or real life, but the idea of a Jaeger mech running across the desert to drop a helicopter, it doesn't quite cut it for me. So I would probably look at turning that into a tap. But this is just my opinion, and who's to say I'm right? There are loads of people out there that will disagree, and I think the only way to really prove it is to play it in the league. So that's where we go with that one. So finishing everything all off, here are my predictions, and then I'll go back to chat. So I think if Clan are played, it'll be in competitive by people that are veterans, for want of a better phrase. Then I think the only Clan deck they would consider playing is the Big Mech deck. I think Dash is dead given some of these units, and that is exacerbated by the 5-card limit, because I don't think you're going to get your Dasher in your hand to start with. I was a little surprised at the number of Clan decks given the 4-card limit, and I suspect a lot of them ran Koshis in order to make sure your curve was low enough to get a mech turn 1 or turn 2. I don't think people will play VTOL decks given the stats or the abilities of the Rifleman and the Jaeger mech, and I think there will be a lot of swarm decks given the benefits of a lot of these units with high damage potential for low cost, and you can chuck them out 2 a turn. And if you can deal with the speed stuff, whether it's a load into bog or a single combat or dropping a few fogs here and there, you can easily nullify a lot of the early, if there is any early clan aggression, and just keep thumping them and chipping away. I think there's a possibility for a Mariki style swarm. Maybe not Marik. Maybe the Star League is the way to go, and you play blitzkrieg and manipulation. And you give a bit of a boost to it with your pilots or fanatical fruit bats or the right mission. I mean, even the right mission, like Lance, whichever one it is, that gives everything +1. If you can attack with 4 and clear the board and give everything +1, and then you've got a fruit bat and a few AP, then all of a sudden that could easily get into not only double figures, but get close to 20. And at that point, then that's half the deck, arguably, that you need to win. If you remember, I often say you need about 40 cards because they draw 20 kind of thing. I think Inner Sphere Alpha striking decks without Solaris, playing around the Hunchback with the Sharpshooter. Our Sharpshooter, let's just have a quick look. It's a 1/2. It's a 1/2. That's very, very cheap. You don't need Solaris to put that in realistically. 1 cost for +2 attack and non-depletion and you're playing tactics is a good strong card in this respect. So I can see that happening, and I wonder if Rhonda Snord makes an appearance, because if you remember good old Rhonda Snord has a wonderful ability which says choose one of the following options: missile, overheat, alpha, or jump. Choose whether all attacking units, and that's all attacking units, must use that option if available or cannot use it. And I can see people thinking, I'll nullify those alpha strikes, and Rhonda's going to pop her head up and say, you can't do that. in order to keep them. Note that this only says one of those options. So if you go back to our wonderful rifleman, you've got to choose the overheat. But if the rifleman's coming across with the good old hunchback, you've got to choose the alpha strike, unless you want to pay the pain of the hunchback. So I those are my predictions. Time will only tell what people play, and how that affects the meta. But if I go back to what I said at the start about where we are, I can see this being played potentially. I don't think the pilot will get played with Vic and Kai. I think it will be sharpshootery type stuff. I think it will be a swarm, maybe Friedeplek and mechs. I don't think the Inner Sphere Big Mech deck will be played, and I think that's the critical mass that will be played, because of either decks just aren't viable, or that particular type of deck has received quite a large buff. And enough of my ranting, enough of my verbalage. Let's see what people have been saying. Right, let's have a look. Rifleman's on curve. It's totally fine except for the anti-aircraft thing. Can't speak about that. The Night Sky is a bad comparison because it's moderate speed. Yeah, I know where you're going with that, Michael. I just think that you've got to put it against something, and I couldn't find much else to put it against. I think the overheat on the rifle is rifleman is what scares me. But you know, we'll see how we go. You'd rather have a Wolfhound for 3, a 153 medium speed with overheat. Yeah, I know the one. I don't know if I'm attacking or if I'm defending. If I'm defending, I might want the Wolfhound because it's moderate. If I'm attacking, I want the Rifleman because I've got the extra. I've got options, and it's more durable. Shoulder actuators, yeah. Jägermech is also fairly costed, except for the anti-air thing. Yeah, I just felt it needed something like an assembly or a buyout on it when you compare it to the other ones. The Jägermech DD is overcosted by a lot. Okay, fair enough. 1.6 is just going off card converter with the actual TT armor value plugged in. Okay, no comment on that really. The 65-ton mechs always suffer on the tabletop. I think it's something designed the maths for their weight, so it's probably just the mathematical model that's used, and 65 seems to be the crunch point where everyone seems to get all the units seem to get the wrong values. Okay, fair enough. Sweet spots for the waiter and TT. Ronda is MVP candidate for the fall. Yeah, maybe. Manipulation can't play with the flea. Why? Because you play the Star League. Why can't I play manipulation with the flea? Manipulation of Romano is a Liao card, and the Star League says I can put in any let's get it right. I can put in any Inner Sphere card that I want. So I'm not sure where that's coming from. Tell me if I'm wrong. But it can with the Locust. Star League, true. Okay, good job. I'm in agreement. You've picked the... Oops, what's that? You've picked up a hum about 10 minutes ago. It's quite strong. It might be the mic or something like that. Oh, I know what it is. That should be better. It's quite a strong audio issue. Apologies. That might be better now. Tell me if the hum's gone. Swarm decks will come out top. Yeah, I hear the hum now. Okay, yeah, obviously you do, whatever. Okay. What else have we got? Swarm decks will definitely be top of the meta. I'm not getting the hum this week, but last week it was awful. Oh, you should tell me. You should tell me if you're getting the hum. I think I know what the hum is. So if you guys get hummed, let me know. I'll do something about it. It's such a hive of activity in here. I'm hot and sweating, and I've got a little USB fan that I've turned on to cool me down. I'll have to bring an ice pack next week. You know, if you guys want no hum, we are willing to do whatever you want. You know, that's the plan. I know I sound like a BattleTech prostitute. That's fine. I don't mind. But guys, if you want it, I'll see if I can do it. Manipulation plus Blitz plus Star League Convo is an A-class finisher. Yep. Okie doke. Hum's gone. So that's the fan. Okay, that's nice and easy. Job done. All right. Anything you want to throw at me? Chuck it in the chat now. I'll give you a couple of minutes, and then after that, I'm gonna have to go and get back to real life. Crowdfund mark a mini split. Crowdfund mark a mini split. Not sure where you're going with that, but hey ho. Do you like the layout, by the way? Do you like the Silly Whiz card? I've packed some cooking vests. Okay. Mini split heat pump. Yeah. I'd love that. For air conditioning. Yeah, I know. The trouble is the guy over the road's got air conditioning and it's on at night and it keeps us awake. So we've actually complained because he's strapped them to the side of his house and it's against the planning regulations. Okie doke. What we got? Thanks for the feedback. Looking forward to see where the deck building takes us this season. Lots more fun planned for the Winter League. Yeah, that was great. Thank you. Thanks for the breakdown. Guys, that's all part of the fun. I quite like doing the little lackey thing and showing how the turns turned out. I think that's reasonably a good graphical how it will happen, and you can see it on board kind of thing. I think you're a bit over concerned about some of the cards. Yeah, okay, maybe I'm cautious. The top issues I would have to say are the Flea, Locust, Hunchback, and Anti. Yeah, okay, and thank you. Yeah, okay. We'll see what the league comes out with. As regards streaming plans, I was going to try and do one a week, but there's not going to be one next week. I'll tell you that now because it's straighten up. I do have a couple of decks from Michael Dance, I believe it is, who said do something to them, and I've done something to them. So I'm going to try and see if I can drop those in later this week. But I don't know what the schedule's like, and I can't commit to anything at this point. But I am going to try and do those. If not, it'll have to wait until after I'm come back. If there's anything you want, let me know. Send a message here. Send me a message on the Facebook group. The Nightbot has been dropping links to it all over the place, and the notes for tonight. So if you want to do that, if there's anything you want me to do. If there's, what the hell do I do with this card? Is this a good card? What do you think of my deck? Can you tell me about this? I will see if I can do it. I have a few ideas about things I'd like to do. I'd like to look at a couple of games and step through them and review them and make comments about certain things to help newer players understand what's going on and why people made certain decisions. And things like that. I've got some decks from the old days that I might just fish out and explain how they work and why they're either absolute rubbish or not meta anymore or crazy or really good design. So there's some stuff to do there. And obviously we will see what happens with the league. So thank you all for coming along, spending the time, listening to me babble and say what I say. It is appreciated, and it's good to hang out with you guys. And hopefully I'll catch you soon for another cast. But in the meantime, then please look after yourselves. It's a big bad world out there. Take care, and if you're playing League, good luck, have fun, and enjoy it for what it is. And take it on the chin, seek to improve, enjoy your games, and I'll catch you again soon. So take care, guys.